chaos. You find it hard to control your thoughts. You find yourself distracted when you're at work. You see patterns and connections that you've never seen before. You blend visual images together instead of seeing them separately and sequentially. You don't filter in information coming at you from outside, even stuff that's irrelevant to whatever you happen to be focusing on. Phew, you probably think that I just read aloud a diagnostic manual. It sounds, in fact, like prodromal symptoms, the beginning stages of schizophrenia. But they aren't. They are the artist's mind. I am Mahaa, and today my talk is about thriving amidst chaos. Chaos, well, the term denotes negative connotations, confusion, and the disruption of a smoothly functioning system. But what if chaos was actually a good thing? Like the artist's mind, what if it actually helped you be more effective, more innovative? Turns out, within disorder lies a powerful driver of creativity and innovation. You must have chaos within yourselves to give birth to a dancing star with the beautiful words of German philosopher Friedrich Wilhelm. There's a theory about minds wandering and how this invites creativity, and it revolves around something called cognitive disinhibition, which in itself revolves around, no surprise, openness. Amidst chaos, the creative genius within us tends to look more openly towards things that otherwise would have been ignored or filtered out. So here's how it works. When we are weathering a storm, we tend to most commonly switch into one of two gears, high-speed problem solving or figurative shelter in place, in order for us to get to the other side of the storm safely. In the calm that follows every storm, we can intentionally take a moment to reflect and recognize the energy that was present during the storm. We can harness it as a fuel for creativity. This energy occurs in brilliant flashes. It can be hard to capture. It is like a flash of lightning or a rainbow in the rain. This energy is oftentimes our genius and can be so much more fueling than the calmness we experience from a tranquil lounging out in breezy weather. The human brain has a natural tendency to seek out order and pattern, especially amidst chaos. A branch of math called the chaos theory looks at how small changes to a system can result in unpredictable behavior. In fact, this can be applied to our lives. The chaos theory may seem fairly theoretical at this point, but look at the brain, say scientists and mathematicians. It is extremely complicated when viewed up close. But doesn't it function seamlessly nevertheless? Think about it. The bigger the problems we need to solve, the bigger the innovations we create. When the world around us is orderly and certain, we tend to think inside that same box that is serving us so well. But when the world around us suddenly becomes chaotic and that box has been torn to shreds, we have no choice but to think outside it, creating new connections by drawing together seemingly disparate ideas from the chaotic whirlwind that surrounds us. A teacher once asked me, as part of a leadership training, if you were to delete one human invention from existence suddenly, what do you delete to wreak the most havoc on earth? Well, never mind my answer, but that question made me wonder. If deleting inventions could result in disorder, then wasn't chaos the mother of invention? Well, yes, some of you here might say necessity, but again, wasn't necessity born out of chaos? When the Hubble Space Telescope captured an image of illuminated stardust in 2004, scientists examined the celestial rendering only to find it oddly familiar. The swirls and billows of the stellar turbulence bore an uncanny resemblance to the Starry Night, a painted masterpiece by Vincent van Gogh, forged within the walls of a French insane asylum over a century earlier. You hear that right. Forged within the walls of a French insane asylum over a century earlier. The mystery was then as it is now. Without possible awareness of this astronomical phenomenon, Vincent van Gogh depicted it with arresting precision. Surprisingly, this work was created when Van Gogh was mentally unstable. He is known to have been undergoing psychotic episodes in which he had hallucinations, minor fits, and lapses of consciousness, perhaps indicating epilepsy. But the fact remains that this skilled artist, known for his chaotic paintings and similarly tumultuous state of mind, found his passion and success in art amidst such turbulence. I don't really know why, but I've always had this personal reverence for people like Van Gogh who find their success in life amidst such not even near normal circumstances, as I'd like to call it. But what I'm trying to say here is that there is a paradox at the heart of every chaos, hence presenting to you another unforeseen exchange between chaos and creativity. For much of the destruction unleashed by the Black Death in 14th century Europe, it turned out to be the crucible upon which the Western world was forged. The Black Death, this bubonic plague, invaded Europe when it was attempting to explore ways of trading with Asia, and the resulting pandemic shook the foundations of European society. We all know how it is to have lived through a pandemic, and this was so many times deadlier. But you would be surprised by what came after it. Cultural and religious exploration, the eradication of serfdom, a shattered feudal system, and a new sophisticated economic system, all born out of this Black Death plague, paved the way for Europe's emergence into the Renaissance. We all know how big of a historical event the Renaissance is, and hence it's magical and surprising how the Renaissance came about so quickly after the plague. But it wasn't random or surprising, they say. Such creation born out of chaos is something that happens again and again and again throughout history and within organizations. There is a reason mythology tends to personify creation and destruction in one being, such as in the Hindu goddess Kali or the Egyptian goddess Isis. The two ideas go hand in hand. Where there is destruction, there is the powerful drive to create something new. Sometimes creation requires destruction, destroying the habits and limited ways of thinking that stand in the creation of new paths. For example, most often creation requires selective destruction, destroying what no longer serves us without losing what does. Just like the world around us is becoming increasingly dependent on recycling, so does creativity leading to sustained success revolve around new inventions, recombinations that serve our changing needs and help us solve new problems as they arise without tossing everything out of the window entirely. Now, looking at this topic of thriving amidst chaos from a slightly angled vantage point, we see another green herring. Uncertainty. Yes, that Black Death that plagues all of our lives, that constant void. But honestly, I don't think that we've all really felt the effects of uncertainty up until the COVID-19 pandemic. What happens when things that are more or less certain in our lives suddenly turns chaotic? Even simple things like going out for work, visiting family and relatives, or even grocery shopping became things that were uncertain for almost all of us all around the globe in the 2 years from the pandemic. Bereft of our certainties and confronted with the unknown, we saw behaviors we had never seen before. Some that were deeply touching on account of their kindness, but others that were simply ruthless. When disaster strikes, the media tend to give the impression that we're all callous at heart, very selfish. Towards the rise of the pandemic, amplified reports of panic buying, fist fights over toilet paper, and profiteering were cases in point, as were the stories of the callous sacking of long-serving staff. But there were many other stories that could and should be told about communities coming together, the young and healthy offering to shop for the elderly, about chefs offering to cook for over-serving medical staff, and musicians playing concerts outside the windows of those in quarantine to keep up their spirits. Such numerous unreported micro and macro kindness acts were observed throughout the globe and extends to a multitude of crises taking place this very moment. There is no greater example, I believe, of the massive scale at which this phenomenon of thriving amidst chaos works in reality. Hence, we find ourselves at side A, mastering the chaos. Your relationship with uncertainty will determine the quality of your life. If there is one thing that the pandemic has taught us, it is that life is certainly, consistently, and unapologetically uncertain. But when our need for that certainty has been compromised, it can leave us reeling. We feel untethered, overwhelmed, powerless. Inevitably, we react by reverting to fear, to the certainty there is in being afraid. From a position of fear, uncertainty is this unassailable obstacle which is beyond our control. But from an empowered position of love, it holds the possibility for opportunity, change, and for the ability to grow and develop. And that is when creativity is born, turning adversity or even your quarter life crisis into a potpourri of vibrant stories. So, step one, balancing unruliness and order. The key lies in creating an environment of balance where chaos is allowed, but not to the point of total disruption. Number two, your role in life is not to suppress chaos, but rather to guide it, to direct it, and to align it with your goals. And number three, building resilience. Disarray can be taxing and stressful, but building resilience both at an individual level and with others is key to navigating through every crisis and emerging stronger every time. Evolution instilled a two-channel system to allow humans to protect themselves from danger and to capitalize on opportunities, the survive channel and the thrive channel. The survive channel is a threat-seeking mechanism. It works much like adrenaline, preparing our body for fight or flight. When this happens, we tend to focus entirely on eliminating any threats. In other words, we simply do what is necessary to exist. While helpful in spurring us into action, the chemicals released in the survive channel can drain our energy, increase our stress, and can paralyze action if the threat does not quickly subside. But in today's world, where almost everything has the potential to be viewed as a threat, it is easy to get caught up in an overheated survive response. But the thrive channel, on the other hand, is activated by opportunities and triggers positive emotions such as passion, joy, and excitement. And people who tap into the thrive channel are better adapted to be adaptive to new situations and circumstances later in life. And this energy can be prolonged for longer periods of time without the risk of burnout. So, could I possibly state that chaos leads to disorder, and that again leads to uncertainty, and how we approach it, either the survive channel or the thrive channel, ultimately decides whether or not we make the vibrant stories. And now here's to side B, harnessing the potential of chaos and churning it into vibrant stories. Now let me talk a little bit about my friendship with chaos. Ever since I entered high school, I have always been this avid all-rounder. My passions were in everything, and I set out to explore every single one of my passion wholeheartedly. I've always enjoyed balancing a plethora of things along with my academics, but in my senior year, it really called for a lot of workload to be piled up, academically and beyond, especially at a time where I'm also actively applying for my universities. And this was to the extent that I even had to withdraw my student officer application from Chemmun this upcoming year. But one day I had this revelation. Maybe there is something that I'm supposed to figure out from all of this chaos. Maybe there is a way I could connect everything, find clarity, and you would be surprised by what came of it. I started weaving together the strings. Channeling all my MUN endeavors, passions, and interests, I started TIPS Month Society at my school with my MUN friends recently this year. And doing a lot of researches and pre-college programs helped me realize that medicine was that pathway that I really liked pursuing as a career and not economics, as I had previously believed. So yeah, you get clarity from chaos. Discomfort often accompanies chaos, but it is this very discomfort that fosters creative thinking. When we are supposed to think creatively, It means we need to step out of our comfort zone and challenge the status quo. Leverage uncertainty as an opportunity or as a catalyst for change. Uncertainty breeds chaos, but it also breeds adaptability, a key ingredient for innovation. Uncertainty pushes you to look for alternatives, to pivot, to adapt. And lastly, embrace diversity as a fuel for innovation. A conglomeration of diverse thoughts, ideas, and experiences is a rich breeding ground for innovation. Homogeneity can lead to stagnation, while diversity can call for fresh thoughts and challenges preconceived notions. What if you tried to stop yourself from thinking your entire way through a problem and instead tossed it to the chaos? Try approaching it from an unexpected direction, from creative expression of your fears, feelings, and thoughts, and voila, you have your solution. So go on, make chaos your northern star. Thank you.